Today we'll get a special look at the Burrowes Mansion. We'll be witnessing its restoration. The workday begins at 7:30 a.m. for the restorationists and ends at about 3:30 p.m. And now we'll meet one of the restorationists. Walter Hager has been in construction for 30 plus years. Starting out in high school as part of a work-study program, he would go on to night school to be in the position he is in now. In addition to construction on human houses, in his spare time, he also builds bird and bat houses. After the roof was finally finished, the painters came in and repainted the mansion in a new coat of white paint. They climbed ladders, built scaffolding, and used extended rollers to get this project done. The old coats of paint contained lead and were removed properly. Lead paint was popular throughout the world until the 1970s, when the United States and other countries started banning it due to health reasons. It is reported that even Ben Franklin warned of the dangers of lead paint in 1786. It is considered dangerous because of white lead, a salt-type mineral that contains both hydroxide and carbonate ions, which was added to increase durability and accelerate the drying time. White lead has been around since the 4th century BCE and was reported by Pliny the Elder to be used as a skin whitener cosmetic now called Venetian ceruse. And now former Matawan Mayor Bob Shuey will talk to us about lead paint. With all this talk of exterior painting, you might be wondering about the interior. Well, interior painting was slated to be completed during this phase of the restoration, but was postponed due to the contractor refusing to use the supplied paint.
So in here we have the living area, which is right now undergoing the window restoration. So the windows have actually been done. They were all dipped. They're all right here. You can see the process that they actually use is that they take the windows, they dip them in a solution, and it strips all of the paint, 200 and so odd years of paint that are on here. And then what they actually do is that they reglaze them. So all these window panes have actually been reglazed. That's the glazing in here, where they've all been redone, and then they have to be all repainted for both interior and exterior color to match. So interior is a little bit more white, exterior is a little bit more antique white, a little bit more off-white.
So what we first did is we removed all the window sashes, sent them out to have all the paint, the 300 years of paint removed from them. Okay. Then we sent them to a woodworker to have the frames and the glass and the glazing all redone. Most of the windows were in great shape, but I think that there were about 3 or 4 windows that needed to be replaced. Oh. So they're being made brand new. But most of them we were able to refurbish. And the woodworker was able to make new mutton styles and rails. And we tried to reuse a lot of the existing historic glass, but a lot of it was cracked. So we had to purchase some new glass. But there is still historic glass in here, in some of the windows. And since then they've been primed and painted an exterior color for the outside part of it and the interior color to match the trim inside. And then what I do is I clean each window too. All the glazing and paint So before I permanently install each window, I take a razor blade, a putty knife, and Windex and clean all the glass inside and out. Especially the top windows here, because all the work that I do inside here, I don't have to do by a ladder outside.
Now let's install a window.
Then the next thing is that we replace these sash chains, but we're going to now use cord. And here are the window weights. So now what I got to do is cut that weight off. Swap out this chain or cord. They had a whole mix of things. We add new cord to these weights. And here's the new sash cord that we use to connect to the weight, run it through, and then tie it off to the window. And then if I'm lucky, I need about 60 inches of chain, so I know if I hold my arms like this, it's about 60 inches. Because I think the length of your arms, or how tall you are, that's what I heard, right? So then what I try to do with the chain here is try to tape it and pull it through the pulley. Like a snake, yeah. So sometimes it works and sometimes it don't, but we'll see what happens. There we go. Over. Around. Over. Then back through. You tie a knot like that. And no matter how hard you pull that, it'll never come apart. So then when you close everything up, now that there's a weight in there, I can make that pulley operate a little bit better. Here we go. And that banging you hear is because these window pockets aren't in yet. The covers for them. And those are these right here. And this one is right side. That covers the weights. That's what I'm saying. After I put these back on, screw them in. And then when I put back the windows, I paint this area here first. So it looks nice and clean and neat. That you're not painting after. Okay, so I'm done with the chain and the sash cord. I try to fit the windows, dry fit, before I do anything else. See how these windows fit. These windows here, I could tell this is the bottom sash because the sill is on an angle and this bottom of the window is cut on an angle so it meets the sill.
Oh.
I don't know if you could see that it's on an angle. Slightly. I mean, they're pretty old, so.
Right, well.
So it's on an angle like this. So I slide that in there like that. And then I take a screw. And this is just dry fitting them to see how they're going to work.
Oh.
And I put a screw there to hold that. And I'll put one more screw there. And you can see that this window is a little bit loose here. But we'll figure that out. And then I take this window and see how it's going to fit. And that one's just a little bit. These are a little bit, some of the windows are super tight. These just happen to be very loose.
Oh.
So, but these windows will be okay. And that's it. I set it up like this. The painters will come in. They'll finish painting. And then I'll move on to the next one. Now I'll get a few of them ready for them.
Okay.
While we take you downstairs, I'll show you the
Sure.
weather stripping. And then once we have the new sash cord connected to the new window sashes, I reinstall them, and then we're adding this spring bronze weather stripping.
Oh, and what does that do?
That's gonna not allow any wind or the outside air to come through the window. Because also what we're eventually going to do is remove all the storm windows. So it'll just be the window sashes exposed to the weather and the elements, because the historic homes never had storm windows.
And now should it just be as good without the storm window, or?
You know, I mean, the storm window's obviously better, but with this
Right.
weather stripping and everything, it should work. But they really look for the look of how it was 300 years ago. And 300
Right.
years ago, they didn't have the aluminum storm windows.
We're no longer going to have storm windows because, number one, exterior-wise, they don't look correct at all. And number two, they're certainly not historical in any way.
So here's all the new hardware for the windows. Here's the latches. And here's the weather stripping that we're using. This is for the jamb and for the meeting rail of the window. And this rubber piece will be for the sill. And we'll put this on at the very end after all the painting's done. And over here, what a finished window will look like. It'll have this style latch here. And hopefully the latch will work to keep Margaret and John Burrowes here inside the house. I think they're pleased with everything.
Oh, but if they can walk through walls, the latch can't move.
You're right. You're right about that.
There was a refurbishment of all the windows. It cost approximately $2,000 per window to actually strip off the paint, have everything glazed, and have all the original glass panes placed back in the windows, and then all reprimed, repainted. Since we're doing all this work, we wanted to kind of like refurbish it and make it a little bit more stylish. So what I did was I did some research on different shutter colors, and we were fortunate that Benjamin Moore has a line of Colonial and Williamsburg colors. This is actually a Benjamin Moore Colonial appropriate color, and we also used this to a color match with a shutter that was in the garage that dates back to the 20s when this was a restaurant. This was the Colonial Tea House, where it was actually a restaurant that operated here. So we were able to get the color that most matched that shutter, and I'll show you that shutter as well. The other problem that we had is the shutters that were on here had just been screwed to the walls, and most of the siding and shutters you'll see nowadays are just aesthetics, where they'll take the shutter, they'll put them next to the window, they'll put 4 or 6 screws in the wall, and that's the end of it, and it just looks nice. I really did not want that. I like old stuff, but I also like old stuff that's functional. So I kind of pushed a little bit, and I says I would really like something that would work, and where the shutters will actually still open and close and function the way the shutters would have back in 1778, which is kind of the time period that we're going for, but not always. So what we did was we did some research, and they had something called dog bones. Dog bones are traditionally on some houses where you'll see a wrought iron handle where it'll twist, and what it'll do is it'll twist and then hold it back. We originally started out by using those, but the problem of why we couldn't use those is because, as you can see, these are just shingles. So with the screw to do the twists, it really wouldn't hold these shutters back in a major kind of windstorm situation. So then we had to kind of go back to square one, and then they said, well, what if we put them on the pintles and then screw them in just to hold them back? I didn't like that either, so I went to this town, actually in Pennsylvania, where I noticed that on the wood houses like this, and also on some of the brick siding houses, they had these style holdbacks. But then we had a problem with these too. And the problem with these type of holdbacks, is that this fisheye didn't really exist. It was a staple back then. So what we did was that I said, well, why don't we get the fisheye that's threaded, and then we'll dip it, plastic dip, to match the cast iron look of this, and affix that. And that's exactly what they did. So the holdbacks that we have are mostly historically correct. The only thing that's not historically correct is the fisheye hooks, the little hoops. because in the 1700s they would have had a staple, but the staple would not hold as strong, and if anything made your wind, it would be pulling away. So as you can see, what's nice is with these, we can actually unhook them. Doesn't take any effort, and we have completely functional shutters that still close and function as they should have. So I'm kind of very happy with the way the shutters came out. We did get a little flack from some of the old timers who were not particularly happy with the color that we chose. But again, we want to kind of bring it to tell the story, and it's not always about bringing it to one particular date in history. With this type of museum, the museum and the building itself tells a story. It doesn't just tell a story of one moment, but all its moments over the past almost 300 years of history. So we decided to go back to the period of when the shutters were this color in the 1920s. Whether or not these are the exact colors that were here in 1778 during the reign of the mansion, we couldn't really say for sure now. But what I can say for sure is this is a colonial appropriate color, and it was the color that was here in 1922 roughly. So this is our 1920 shutter. These were actually still on the mansion until the 1980s. And as you can see from the color, pretty decent match.
The official color chosen for the shutters was Mayo Teal, which is one of 144 possible colors offered in the Williamsburg collection by Benjamin Moore. In addition to using Benjamin Moore paints, the mansion also had Benjamin Moore painters under the Riccardi brothers' name paint the windows and shutters.
This is the parlor area, same thing. Some of the windows actually fell out during some of the wind that we had, so we actually had to put plywood there temporarily. So that's been another routine issue that's occurred here. So every window in the house essentially has been pulled out.
And now we are heading into the attic. Over here you can see the bullet holes left by the muskets of the British soldiers who raided this mansion in 1778. Today this area is nearly empty, but at one time this attic was filled to the brim with mannequins, posters, farm equipment, and various other things commonly called garbage. It was cleared out so the society could earn extra money by selling off the items at the town-wide yard sale.
This is from Tom. We have all this different.
So I'm just here today to talk to you about the significance of the gardens that we planted in front of Burrowes Mansion. And in doing research, we wanted it to reflect the colonial period, and so we knew that the influence was strong with the English, and symmetry was very important. So you'll notice that the gardens, the shrubs that we planted mirrored both sides of the house. And we went with a lot of boxwoods. They're a little more fragrant in their smell. They stay green year-round. And we have a holly at the end, which we hope will grow big and full. And we wanted some sense of color, so we added the bayberries and some plants that perennials that will bloom each year to provide some color. Gardens were really showed a sense of civility and elegance in that period of time, and they were very particular about being about the symmetry and not having it very natural, and which is more the trend today. But anyway, that's really what went behind the choices of the bushes and plants that we have for the Burrowes Mansion.
The Burrowes Mansion depends on visitors like you. Thank you. This film was not paid for by the state of New Jersey. Pay more, expect less.